Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Seems like it's been forever since we've had a meeting, so welcome back, folks, staff. Roll call.
Richardson.
Here.
Garza.
Here.
Majors.
Here.
Goss.
Here.
Bass.
Here.
Pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you that you've blessed us so much. We live in a great nation, a great state, and an even greater community. So, Lord, we thank you for that because we know you provide it all. Lord, please guide the council. They seek to do what's best for the citizens of Hutchinson and help them with that. Lord, we thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus Christ. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Next item.
Item number 4, petitions, remonstrances, and oral communications from the audience.
All right, I've got a few people here that would like to speak. Phil, why don't you go first, and then we'll move on from there. John, I'll get to you in a minute, and then anybody else that would like to speak to us, you can.
Good evening, Phil Nightingale, Mel Hamilton Ford, Salt City Racing. Nick Ballman, my right-hand man, is handing out some papers with some numbers and things on it that we can kind of go through, but more importantly, there's some numbers there to kind of share 2024 and kind of where we're headed for 2025. But first of all, I'd like to thank the city for the help that it gave us in 2024. I'm here to hope we can continue that moving forward and see what else we can do to help each other. After you see some of these numbers we're going to talk about, I think we all agree we need to push very hard to keep this racetrack alive for the city and Reno County. But the first page is basically our schedule that is locked in for 2025. Most of the dates are still open on what classes. We're pretty much about 95% know what classes we're going to do, but we haven't put it out to anybody yet from that part exactly 100%. We still got a couple sanction bodies we're still talking to. But the biggest one is the July 18th and 19th, the USAC race is coming back. Was our biggest success last year, and they are pumped. They're excited to come back and race with us in 2025. We're going to make a few changes to the track and stuff like that to hopefully have even a better race than we had last year from that part. So there's our schedule for 2025. The second page we brought in is just our numbers of the attendance that we had at the track for the season, of the amount of people that came to the grandstands and the number of people that actually came through the pits. I'll be honest with you, I hope we can grow those numbers. I think we can. We need a few more people sitting in the grandstands, but I think a lot of now we've got with the help of a lot of you here in this today, we do have a 3-year contract going forward for 2025, which is good, exciting. It gives us another chance to do some more things at the track that we couldn't do that first year. So I thank you all for the help of that, of helping work with the Fair Board and Brian and helping us get that 3-year contract together. It gives us a lot of more things we can do now from that part. But the next page is what we did. We did an impact study last year before we started. So this time, after the races were all done, and if everybody remembers, we did a credit card, no cash whatsoever, so we could track all this. So we took these numbers. These are legit numbers that we gave back now after it was done to the state of Kansas, to the impact, to do this study. The first page is our biggest race, which was the USAC race, is what I'm bringing forward. If you look at the top right, second one down, it was a little over $1 million in impact to Reno County for that race. And then if you come down, clear down to the total bottom, it ended up being $634,000 worth of impact. And that number dropped a little bit because we made sure we went back, and the second time we did it, we actually went to the hotels and proved how many people came to Hutchinson and stayed at the hotels in Hutch for the race. There was other activities going on during that race too, but again, I really truly believe these numbers are pretty accurate. But again, let's take the 600,000 number and cut it in half. That's still a pretty big number in my opinion for what that race impacted. The other page, the next page kind of breaks more numbers down that you can study later if you'd like. The second to the last page is our weakest race, which was the last race of the year, and it still impacted was $54,000 to Reno County, which I think is a huge number still, even though that was our weakest attendance in that deal. So I wanted to do the most attendance and the weakest attendance, so we kind of had an idea what this is doing for our city, what it's doing for Reno County from that part. And again, the last page is actually breaking out more detail of those numbers from that part. But my biggest thing is tonight is to let you know I thank you all for helping with that 3-year contract. That's what we fought for. I will tell you, in the negotiation of the 3-year contract, I almost walked away twice. I was that angry and disappointed what was happening, how it was going. But with the help of several of you, I can't thank you enough, because without that help and that push, I'm not sure we'd be standing here today talking about a 3-year contract on a racetrack that's, and again, that racetrack, you know, I race all over. Racing's in my blood. I love it. And that is the second best facility in the state of Kansas, sitting right here in Hutchinson, that I race at everywhere I go. The other place is Dodge City. They've got the Taj Mahal of racing out there in Dodge City. Wish we could have something like that here, but maybe we can get there someday if we keep moving forward. So my thing is, I came here tonight this morning to thank you for 2024. Hope we continue 2025 moving forward, and there's other things we can do together to help make that racetrack a huger success. I would love to help with that part, or get together where we can. But I do tell you that the list Nick and I have put together of things we want to do at that racetrack, now that we have a 3-year contract, is Katie bar the door for what we want to hit. It's kind of fun because we have sanctioning bodies now reaching out to us, not us calling them. And we can't race all the sanctioning bodies that have contacts already for 2025. It can't happen. So that's exciting when you've got those sanctioning bodies that are interested in coming to race with us. So anyway, questions, anything, comments?
Can you get that list done?
What we want to get done?
Yeah.
In 3 years, yeah, we'll probably get it done.
Okay.
It's going to take a couple years to get what we have on our list. I'm excited for the schedule. Again, this schedule, these dates, we picked these dates. The dates in 2024, we didn't get to pick those dates. We got so late in the game of getting the 1-year contract. And I will tell you that half of those dates that we had last year, we really didn't want to run, because we were competing with other tracks. We were competing with other sanction bodies at other areas of the country that took away from us. But again, that's the only dates we had. But we get to pick these dates here, so we're really excited what we're going to do in 2025 with not having to run on other top of sanction bodies, and having to run on top of the big races that are around the country that affect where people will go and where they'll race and where races will come. Our USAC race last year, we lost a few racers because we were on top of another race in another state. They didn't come. We're not this year. We're not. That's why we got it back. Again, USAC is ready to go. So we should bring some better, I should say better, some more bigger drivers that will compete in that July race.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, just
Well,
he did a fabulous job.
Yeah, I appreciate your work, and never dreamed I'd be learning about racing sitting in this seat, but I feel like I know quite a bit about racing now.
Well, we can come. So we can teach you some more if you'd like. That's for sure.
Okay.
But
I'll
no,
help with a list. How about that?
come up with a list. But again, I just want to know what we can do to partner together, help each other, help this city. You know, I lived here for many, many years, and want to do what I can, not make that racetrack disappear. It needs to stay here. It needs to be successful, and I think we've proven with the numbers we've proven here already it can be successful from that part. Just got to work together as a team and help everybody. But again, I can't thank you for 2024, and I can't thank Enrico for what he helped with, and John and Greg and Scott, you guys all helped get this thing where it needs to be. So this is more of a thank you, and say let's continue for 2025 and whatever else we can do to help each other to make a success. I think if we see what the numbers did on a schedule that we didn't like, and now we got a schedule we do like and what we can draw, I think it's going to be a fun year for sure.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I noticed from it seemed like the numbers were fairly consistent except for that last race, and the good, the good race,
Yeah.
the Silver Crown race.
We were shocked too that the attendance didn't come in the October race. So as you'll notice, on the October 10th and 11th, it's going to be a 2-day race. We're going to try to hopefully that will draw some more crowd and things of that part too. But also know you get into those dates too. You're fighting against Friday night football. And
You wait a home
different things
football
like
game
that
that
too.
night.
And football's big in this town. I get it. So maybe doing that 2-day race on the 10th and 11th. And again, we have a couple sanction bodies that are looking at that date that could be a good draw too, but nothing locked in on those 2 days yet.
Well, very good, Nick. Appreciate you being here as well.
Yep.
Thanks
Everybody,
for the-
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
And call me, text me, call me anytime you need something.
Okay,
Thank you.
you bet. John, would you like to speak to us? Just state your name and your address, and please limit it to 5 minutes. Apparently not.
My name's John Hayes. Excuse me. Scared myself. My name's John Hayes, 405 Kansas Avenue. I don't have exactly track of how many times I've been before this commission. It's been in years past. I don't know very many of you other than the few I met just this year. But my issue with the noise ordinance started back in 2008. And I'm going to be talking about race cars, and I know some of you guys enjoy the races at the racetrack, and that's wonderful. I can hear it from my backyard, and it doesn't bother me at all. It bothers my dog a little bit, but not me. But when it's in my backyard, that bothers me. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. Was going to ask for the video? He's got it set up.
He does have it set
Yeah.
up?
So is he speaking now during public comment, or is he going to speak to an agenda item?
I think this is just public comment. Well, I don't know. Are you speaking?
No, I want to speak about the races.
Yeah, he's speaking about
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, not
a
These-
now, then,
specific
right?
Okay.
problem.
okay, got it.
I'm confused.
I was confused. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I just wanted to give you an example of what we put up with on race day.
Let me double check and make sure, because I didn't exactly have a minute to test it, so.
It's less than 60 seconds, I think.
But yeah, I just have to make sure the audio's set up.
Does it have anyone's names or faces in it that aren't represented here?
No, I don't think so.
Good.
It's just on the back side of that fence. There's 4 different guys living in that car. Only one of the guys lives there. There's usually 2 or 3 people there when they're loading, and not loading cars. I think that's the end of it. Hey, Rick! Ricky! This happened just this year. We'll get into it in a second.
Yeah, well, you don't need to mention any names, but
Okay. In May of 2009 was my first appearance here and my first noise complaint. An officer came out and took a report from me and my wife, and they said that they would go over and talk to him. Well, we can sit on our porch, as you just saw, and see the distance between the garage and the house. This man moved into that place and built a 40 by 70 shed, or 40 by 60 shed, 70, a large shed, and told me that he rebuilt race car engines and race cars. And that red flagged me immediately, so I come down to City Hall and talked to Nancy Scott and Bob Fairbanks, and they said he can build any side of the garage he wants to there, but he can't run race cars. And this is back in 2008 or 10, I think it was 10. I went to a city commission meeting in 2010 and asked for help for the noise ordinance. I'll just go through this briefly. 2010, I was back in May of that year, I was back to the city commission meeting again about the noise. I got a text in 2010 from Bob Bush. That's this text here. He actually sent me 2 of them, telling me, encouraging me to continue calling the police when this happens. And I did do that. And I called the police a lot. And in 2010, the Hutch News started running 3 different articles about the noise ordinance here. In May of 2012, I come to another city commission meeting, and in the midst of all this, we talked about some parts of town can accept louder noises than other parts of town. And I made a comment to the commissioner at that time. This wouldn't happen in Kissawall. That's where he lived. That's Ron Sellers. So this wouldn't happen in Kissawall. And that created a little bit of stir between them and me. And anyway, I went back again to a meeting in May of 2012 with the same complaint again. And I said, and the police chief was sitting here in the audience at that time, I says, I have called the police out at least 20 to 25 times. I went down to the police station before that to verify that. They had 3 reports on me. That's all they had. I said, I know I've been here. You've been out 20 to 25 times because I'm relentless. I'm going to keep calling when they fire up these race cars. And the police chief was sitting in the audience, and Ron Sellers says to him, the police chief, and he come down to the podium, he says, can you explain any of this? And he, of course, didn't know anything about it, basically. And the very next day, I was contacted by the assistant police chief, Troy Hoover, and he gave me this report. He also gave it to this lady in the back here, who's a neighbor on the other side of this person, and took it personally and delivered it to the person that owns the race car. And it says here, in the next time we hear a race car that is disturbing to you, you only need to call 911 and report the problem. About 2 weeks after that, I called 911 and reported the problem, and I signed a complaint order. He was issued a ticket, and then the court appearances started. And I've got all the subpoenas for court. There's 5 of them here. On each of the 5 times, the first one I believe was postponed. The other 4, all 5 of them I had to take off work to appear because I subpoenaed to appear. He never showed up on any of them. None of them. So at the 5th one, that was January the 1st of 2013, he was issued a summons. I think he paid a fine, I don't know how much, and he had a 2-year probation. Run the race car, going to jail. So from that point on, it got pretty quiet. And occasionally they'll run it, load it. If I understand it right, and I don't really know, but it appears to me that they winch that car onto their trailer, but they have to have the engine running to run the power steering, is the way I think it works. I just really don't know because I haven't been that close to watching.
John, I don't want to interrupt you, but we're already at about 8 minutes, and we allow 5.
I'll wind it right up.
Okay.
And so let me check my notes real quick. Anyway, in about 2021, it started again, and it's just getting worse. This year, I made a complaint. I was actually mowing my grass one day, and that thing fired off, and I like to come off that mower. It was extremely loud, and I confronted him, over the fence, and wound up the police was called. When the police came out, they took a report. I said, I want to sign a complaint again. They said, we don't do that anymore. That's changed. I didn't know anything about that. So at any rate, the noise is still going on. And my question here, I've brought this up several times, is I think an ordinance should be passed no race cars to be run in town unless you run a race. I mean, that seems simple to me. I base this on you fought for years to get the right to have 10 chickens or 12 chickens or 14 or chickens or whatever, but no roosters, because roosters make too much noise. And my point is, that race car makes a lot more noise than that rooster will. So, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, John. Is there anybody else from the audience that I didn't know about that would like to speak? You'll have 5 minutes. Chief?
Steve Beer, Fire Chief. I just want to let you and the public know, HFD, we got a couple of good things going on this week. Thursday, the public is invited at 10 o'clock in the morning at the new fire station on North Main Street for unveiling of one of the first in the state of Kansas safe haven baby box. So it's pretty exciting. I think we'll have quite a few people show up, and we got people coming in from Indiana to do some guest speaks and stuff like that. In addition, on Saturday before the parade, from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock at Fire Station 1 on North Main, we're holding an open house along with, you can bring your children, and Santa Claus will be there from 2 to 5 o'clock before the parade. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chief. Anyone else have anything? Good evening. State your name and address.
My name is Quincy Baker. My address is 5828 Yucca Road. Upon writing this, 45,225 Palestinians have been killed by the IOF since October 7th, 23. Murdered by weapons your tax dollars directly paid for. More than 41,939, or the entire population of Hutchinson and South Hutchinson, Kansas combined. Upon writing this, 350,000 deaths have been caused by the IOF since October 7th, 23. Murdered by injury with no care, forced starvation, demolition of healthcare facilities, inflicted disease, and settler weapons. Nearing 395,400, or the entire population of Wichita, Kansas. 70%, or 310,000 of the deaths have been women and children. From February 15th to March 15th, 2024, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Organization, or the IPC, classified 677,000 people in IPC 5, or catastrophe famine. That's more than 16 times the population of Hutchinson and South Hutchinson combined, and almost 2 times the population of Wichita. And from March 17th to July 15th, 2024, the IPC projected 1,107,000 people, a full half the Gazan population, to be in IPC 5. That's more than 26 times the population of Hutchinson and South Hutchinson, and almost 3 times the population of Wichita. Upon writing this, Wichita, Hutchinson, and their largest suburbs, Derby and South Hutchinson, contribute 6,673,893 yearly to IOF weaponry. This money sent to IOF weaponry instead can fund 70 elementary school teachers. 6,673,893 yearly sent to IOF weaponry could instead fund 175 students with their loan debt canceled. 6,673,893 yearly sent to IOF weaponry could instead fund 791 households with public housing for a year. 6,673,893 yearly sent to IOF weaponry could instead fund 2,320 children receiving free or low-cost health care. The money yearly sent to IOF weaponry could instead fund 18,999 households with solar electricity produced for a year. The money yearly sent to IOF weaponry could instead fund 5,800,000 803,383 NR5 respirator masks. Upon writing this, the IOF has been the largest cumulative recipient of U.S. foreign aid since its founding, receiving about $310 billion adjusted for inflation in total. $3.8 billion sent yearly by every state to IOF weaponry could instead fund 346,204,721 Americans. From October 7th, 2023, the United States has enacted legislation providing at least $12.5 billion in direct military aid to the IOF, which includes $3.8 billion, which from a bill in March 2024, in line with the current MOU, which I just addressed, in addition to $8.7 billion from a supplemental appropriations act in April 2024. Other analysis, Linda J. Biles, William D. Hartung, and Stephen Simler from Brown University have reported that the IOF received $17.9 billion in U.S. military aid during this period, a figure that additionally accounts for the cost to the U.S. Defense Department of replenishing the stock of weapons provided to the IOF. Thank you.
Thank you, Quincy. Anybody else here like to address the council? Please approach the podium. State your name and address.
Nicholas Taylor at 306 East 16th Avenue in Hutchinson. I didn't expect to get up here, but I like coming to these meetings. How much time do I have? Sorry. 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
This is just public comments, right?
Yes.
Okay. I like coming to these meetings. I want to participate. However, I just want to make it known that the benediction at the beginning of the meeting made me feel a little uncomfortable. Is there a reason why we do that in particular to a specific religion? I'm not, I'm assuming Christian or Catholic or something like that, but it just made me feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to make anybody else feel uncomfortable. If we do continue with the benediction, can we make it less, just maybe a hey, positive vibes type thing? Have you guys considered that?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I will consider it.
Okay. Because, I mean, if I got 5 minutes every single council meeting, I can make you guys feel pretty uncomfortable with a Muslim prayer, satanic prayer, something like that. And I wouldn't want to do that to everybody here. So, any response? You want to discuss it now?
Well, we're just here to listen.
Okay.
Public comment, we try not to speak back.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I think you have a very valid point.
Okay.
I think it's very interesting to pursue that line of conversation as council.
Okay. Sorry. Think about it, please, because I just want to continue coming.
All right.
And not
Thank
feel
you, Nick.
awkward.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Next item, please.
Item number 5, consent.
Has everybody looked at the consent agenda? Any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Nagers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Item number 6, ordinances and resolution. A, consider charter ordinance for designation of the City of Hutchinson website as the official city newspaper.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, that's been presented before. It was asked by the mayor to bring it back to you for consideration. Nothing has changed except the dates I put on there. We can save some money by doing that. We can do immediate publications. We can put the complete document on there instead of summaries. And there's the ability on our website for notices to be received, and you can sign up for that. I don't have anything more than what I had in the past.
All right.
Do you have any dollars assigned to this
It would save several $1,000s, yes.
through the course of a year?
Yes.
Okay.
Any comments from the
I
council?
have a comment. From a
Okay.
logistical standpoint, what is stopping us from going ahead and putting these documents on the website to begin with? So if they are important and they're worth sharing with people at the same time that we send them out to the newspaper, it seems like they should be published on
They are published on the website.
our website in their entirety.
Yep.
Okay,
It's the publication in the newspaper that gives the effective date.
right.
Until it's published, it's not effective. So just putting it on the website until you designate the website as the city official newspaper does nothing.
So let me understand this. All we're doing is stopping putting the publishing that we use in a newspaper. We're doing it our own, right? It doesn't affect the newspaper itself. People can still, if there was a newspaper, they still can buy a newspaper and get the other news from that newspaper, right? All we're doing is we're stopping putting it in.
We're stopping the public notice that is published in the paper.
I see.
And you do not need a subscription to the Hutch News in order to receive the legal notices. Those can be read by any person for free.
But it's
Couple
not
thoughts.
free to the city.
I understand that. Couple thoughts on this, in discussions with people that have thoughts one way or the other. One thing that I thought was a fairly valid point was in regards to record keeping for the future if something were to happen to our storage, our electronic storage, if we would have a way to, paper copy to do research and find some of these notices. Just like we are able to do, research for newspapers from 80 years ago. I'm just thinking down the
How
road.
far would you like to go back? We have them all.
You have them all paper printed off-site.
We actually have it, we have them on site, and they are in multiple, I should have IT explaining this, but multiple virtual drives.
Okay, but we have a backup to what we
There are
post on.
multiple backups for everything.
The other thing I would note that these are not opinion articles or, our communications director. It's not a spin piece where we can put in our. These are public notices. It's fact. It's not opinions. It's not something we can change factual information on. I think there's some people that are concerned that if we start, we're not writing our own articles on how good we're doing or how bad we're doing. It's literally states a fact. Here's a public hearing. Here's a notice you need to know about. And then the third thing I would note that just because we're not issuing this saying that the Hutchinson News, the official paper, does not exclude any news organization from putting the information out there in addition to what it's on the city website. This is not an exclusionary act. It's just basically saying we're going to put it on the website. We're not going to choose an outside source to be the official publication.
But
They
no,
can still publicize it.
no newspaper, they can still publicize it as an event, but there are legal notices that are not events and they are not announcing an event. And so from a publication standpoint, if you have newspaper B and then you have the Hutch News, and let's say we pay the Hutch News to put that legal notice in, the atrium situation, for instance, newspaper B isn't going to run that same notice for free because it takes up space in their newspaper. They're going to reserve that space for a print, for a paying customer. And if I remember correctly, I haven't bought newspaper ads in a while or public this stuff in a while because our board clerk does it. But this particular part of the newspaper has its own fee schedule, and it is different than when you're just buying regular advertisements. And so this is like, it's just different. And you absolutely wouldn't just turn that public notice into a story and then reprint it. No one would read it anyway. That's why it's put out as a public notice, because it's required. It's not sexy. No one cares typically about that stuff.
I care.
I sign up for all of these public notices too. I think that moving to the city newspaper, this is a move that I believe Wichita just tried or just did. I don't know if they were successful. Do you recall, Mr. Brown?
They actually ended up with a hybrid. I do not recommend that to the city of Hutchinson.
Okay. So they also had some ulterior motives from what I read, but I don't like this plan because I think that if for nothing else, we owe as much transparency as possible to our residents. And maybe if something viable comes in the future, we can change away from a print newspaper. But right now, I think even though the Hutch News is not great, it's still worth printing in.
Well,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, are there, I mean, besides Wichita trying it, are there any other cities in Kansas that are doing this?
Yes.
Several?
Yeah, there are other cities.
Are they having successful, is it working?
Yeah, it's fine. It's not an issue. The League office, League of Kansas Municipalities, they have standard ordinances for designating the website as an official city newspaper. McPherson's done it, Dodge City's done it.
And we're doing this more of a, because of reduction in circulation from the Hutch News.
Yeah, is anyone seeing it?
No.
I read the e-edition and other newspapers.
Yeah.
I think for me, the issue is you have to pay to do that. You wouldn't have to pay to do this.
You don't have to pay to read illegal or to read those though. The public notices
You
are on a
have to pay to get a newspaper.
right, but the public the part that we're putting in the newspaper, that's free. There's no paywall for that section.
Okay, that's fair.
Is it hard to locate? I've never looked.
Yeah,
No.
my feeling on this is transparency at its finest. You
Legals.
don't have to pay, you go to the city, we're the ones putting out the notice. It seems like a no-brainer to me, to have it very transparent. It's mandated by state statute. There's not gonna be any editorialism or anything. It's just simple, here's the resolution or whatever we're publishing. That's how I feel about it. I feel like it would be much more transparent and easy for people to find. That's how I feel about it, especially if you can put in your email address and have it sent to you. Have you notified.
I think I would like to know how it would be presented on the website. Is it going to be hidden in a sub-page, or will it be an announcement, like a banner or a bottom? Okay, now maybe someone else is beating me to the punch on that.
Dave Sotelo and the webmaster currently.
The webmaster.
That's a really cool title they give you when you start getting the keys things to Todd. Really quick, so this is a conversation we've had even before this. So currently there are certain things that already the state requires us to put on the website as a legal notice. So if you go to our website, at the bottom of the page, there is a Star Bonds button. If you click on there, it takes you directly to all the information we have on Star Bonds and the drawing of the district, the notices of the district. When we started to look at that, I just didn't feel comfortable with that be meeting the requirement that the state has for us, because the average person, if they scroll through that, it's not telling them that that's where the notice is published. So we are having a conversation with Civic Plus to find a better button that will say legal notices at the very top of the page where people can directly access those. And we can do several, so you can go look at the Star Bonds page and you can see those notices. Something very similar to that, or the format that we have on the agendas, is what will appear on the website, where it'll say legal notice for whatever ordinance or plan that we're working on. So it will be front and center on the website, easily accessible. You'll know that it's a legal notice. Separately, every time there's a new agenda published or whatever item that's published on our website, there's a huge list, and I should have looked how many people are signed up to receive those notices, but it would automatically end up on their inboxes. So whenever you get an agenda or a meeting for the
tree board, people can sign up to specifically choose which notifications they get. They would automatically get that once something is uploaded. But it's a direction we're going to, because some of our programs that we're already doing are requiring us to put stuff on the website. Our current system doesn't meet that, but we're working to have a better system where it's just, and cities all over the place. Once we started talking with our service provider, they mentioned the direction the cities are going to just using their website as a place where they publish all of this. Everything that we do and all of our ordinances are already available, but we're just trying to find a way that is easily accessible to people. That's the top priority for us.
As webmaster,
Yes,
web
please.
novice, I would think that, I mean, our homepage, of course, that is a given, but is there a way that we could do something similar on the landing page for paying your water bill? Since a lot of people will be going online to pay their water bill, that'd be a great place to get in front of them.
There's a brilliant idea that I don't know the answer to, but I can certainly check.
Okay.
We don't we have access to edit our
Yeah.
website. The landing page is a different contractor, and so we'll have to check
If
what
there's a way of doing
flexibility
something
we
like
have there.
that,
Yeah.
because that might get in front of more people
Yeah.
that aren't particularly looking for it, but need to be made aware of it.
We also, one thing that we can do, and in fact, I'll just commit to doing every time we have a new legal notice, just making a specific post on our social media accounts for that legal publication. I think that's something we can do to kind of inform more people and give them that's how most people receive their information anyway. So if that's the way where they see it, I've never seen a legal publication notice on social media from the Hutch News or whoever, but we can get ahead of that and do that for the public.
So to find the legals on the Hutch News, you go hutchnews.com, and then legals is right there in the banner. I don't know how that would be difficult for anybody to find. Would this change anything for our courts or for any other types of legal notices that the city is putting out?
Wouldn't have anything to do with the courts,
Okay, so this would just be for
municipalities.
the municipality.
Well, to add to that, there will still be notices that we'll have to put out in the paper. I believe real estate transactions or other things like that. What we're talking about is just more rudimentary stuff, more routine stuff, projects or anything like that. That would be the type of legal notices that we'd be putting on our website. But a lot of other work that we do would still have to go to the paper. So this is only covering a portion of, but not everything.
Well, I got a bottom question here. That's because we know society's all going to computers. How about the person who doesn't have a computer? Who are forcing them to buy a new? I don't know, but that's the first thing I think of. What about a person who doesn't own a computer? I don't know. If everybody owns computers now, they might do it, but I don't know. So the person who doesn't own a computer would have to go to a library, or I don't know. I mean,
Well, where would they, and I'm just playing devil's advocate now, where would they go to find a newspaper?
well, they
Are
have to buy a newspaper.
Are they still selling them in
Yeah,
the
they're
quick
still-
shops? Okay.
I don't know if they're in the quick shops, but there's
The
still
last
people
time I
who-
tried to find one, I couldn't find one anywhere.
There are still delivery. They're delivered via USPS the next day after publication. I mean, it's not ideal, and I will admit that the Hutch News is so far from perfect. There isn't a local staff member. There isn't even, I don't think there's a staff member within hundreds of miles from us. And we are definitely not Michigan. So I think that they're not doing us any favors, but on its face, I don't like this, and I will vote no for this.
If we don't like the service we're getting, why would we continue to pay them for that said service?
I don't like the fact that they printed Hutchinson, Michigan on the Minnesota
Yeah.
on the front page. That has nothing to do with this.
Let's
Like,
say
they
our
suck as a
announcements are getting
newspaper.
printed in Hutchinson, Minnesota, instead
This
of
is
here.
about government transparency.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I feel like it's way more.
It's a black and white contract.
Transparent.
Are they printing the things that we sent them to print? Yeah. And are people reading those? Yeah. Not everybody has a computer or is on Facebook or is living in the digital world that some of us are living in. So I think printing in the newspaper is still important. By all means, putting everything on the website as well is just as important for those of us who are digital and don't want to have to look in two places. I feel like that is probably a best practice already.
Well, is there anybody in the audience who wants to
Yeah.
say something to us about this?
Michael, would you like to speak to
I
us?
knew Michael was there.
He has some funny looking piece of paper.
He found it.
Did you find the paper?
It's not actually the Hutchinson News. It's the Harvey County Now.
Okay.
But I want to use it as an example. I have a PowerPoint, and it's on. So I'm here today to essentially try to convince you all to vote no on this. And I'll explain why. Some of the points have been brought up. I was here the previous time that this item had been discussed. And I'd say I would come back with some more information. And thankfully, I do have some now. Am I able to hit the next slide up here? Or yes. It'd be this.
Spacebar.
Oh, shoot. I'm 17. You'd think I would know how to do this stuff.
You're just doing this so we
Yeah.
see how.
You're making your point, Michael. I see what you're doing.
Why is printing worthwhile? Printing does have a cost, and none of us can disagree with that. Another pretense that we can't disagree on is that the quality of the current official city newspaper is not where any of us would want it to be, because I wouldn't have a job if that was the case. No one's denying that the Hutchinson News isn't the same as it was when I was born in 2007 or in the 90s or 80s or whenever. However, printing's still important, and Vice Mayor Goss actually made my point for me. It's all about transparency. Along with open meeting laws, which allow everybody to be here, and the Freedom of Information Act, public notice is an essential element of the three-legged stool of government transparency. There are three main methods for citizens, journalists, for anybody to know what's going on in their community, in their country, in their state. And public notice is a huge component of that. And with public notice, printed newspapers remain the largest vehicle of public notice in all 50 states. Has it been moved to city websites in some cases? Yes. However, the most popular, the best way that's been done forever is in printed, it's in printed media. And specifically, a point that wasn't brought up, but I think is important to note, is essentially how important this is. It may come across as hypocritical, as my newspaper is all online. However, with newsprint, and I've discovered a new word, serendipitous reading. So I looked into what that actually meant. I read it, I didn't know what it was. Essentially, serendipitous reading is doom scrolling, but with the newspaper. You find something that you think is interesting. So in Thursday's edition of Harvey County Now, fire collapses, large chicken barn on flock. It's very unfortunate. But so you read the paper, and then it takes you to page 8. And then on page 8, you find something which takes you to page 13. And on page 13, you have a Bentley public notice, and it's there. Did you ask for it? No. But if you're a resident of Bentley and you find out something's going on that you don't want to happen, you now know. And without newsprint, we go on the internet to look for specific things. When I type in my Google search box, I want this, and I don't care about anything else that's going to try and pop out at me. But when you're in a newspaper, you can't really avoid that. And so even things such as serendipitous reading, it's still important to invest in. We find things in newspapers we weren't expecting to see. And on the internet, we search for specific information, and we don't care about anything else unless we're specifically looking for it. And so this has been a topic that's been discussed across the state. We've established that. And it's actually occurred in Harvey County, in Heston, only about 30 minutes away. And the editorial team of the Harvey County Now published an editorial about it. And that's a quote that I wanted to bring to the council. If you wanted to prevent a city action, would it be easier for citizens to organize if it was in the newspaper or hidden on the city website? How would you even know about it, is my question. And granted, the circulation of the news has dwindled. Nobody's denying that. But it's still important to print for those who do view it, for those who do want to know what's going on in the community, and even for those who don't, who just read obituaries or the opinion page. They come across legal notices, and I think if the council wants an engaged and informed public, that they should continue to print. As for websites, everything's already online for free. Not even just on the Hutch News, but all Kansas public notices are already published online at no cost, and you can read them there at kansaspublicnotices.com. And there, every paper that's associated with the Kansas Press Association, hundreds of papers, including the Hutchinson News, publish legals online for free. And this is ran by the KPA, the Kansas Press Association, which ensures legal notices can be accessed by a third-party website, as this website, and in print with the official newspaper. I think the question of government transparency, I understand, Mr. Fast, you're wanting to keep government transparency, but the way to do that isn't by having the government run its own public notices. It's by sending it to a trusted third party, like official newspapers, who take it and publish it on their own. I'm not accusing anybody of trying to be corrupt or only let out what they want people to know about, but from a citizen's perspective, I know personally I would trust reading a public notice in a newspaper more than I would, or any government article. I would trust if it was written in the Harvey County Now than if I saw it on the Newton City website. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it's reflective. And even the website, which of course is run by the KPA, it's required by law for it to be in print. Obviously cities have a home rule law which can change that, but it's required by the legislature for a reason. It's a part of government transparency, and I think it would be a misstep for the city to cease printing in the Hutchinson News. The city should care about whether or not its citizens are informed. In my reporting experience, in my time, I would say they do, and I hope you do. Local newspapers, regardless of their quality, regardless of their history, regardless of how we perceive them, are the best way for citizens to come across legal notices, whether they were looking or not, and become active in the community from those notices that they might have a passion for. So, in conclusion, if the council wants an active, informed public, they should keep printing. It's my last slide. Do you have any questions? I want to have a dialogue if that's
the Kansas publisher, whatever, the KPA that
Yes.
handles the public notices. How do they handle public notices for cities that are only posting on their website, not publishing in a newspaper, or do they not handle those?
That I am unaware of.
They don't receive them, so they don't.
It's only
post
if it's
them.
posted to a
Correct.
newspaper that it's listed.
Because the newspaper reports to the KPA.
Okay.
Those items to the KPA.
And then I will add other cities, for example, Iola. The Iola Register publishes, they have the legals contract, and they publish it on their website for free, as well as the print that they're contracted to do. And so it's all a way to be as transparent as possible, to get as much information out there as we can without having to charge for it. So we do have the online right now in the third-party newspaper industry. It's just a question of whether those legals are centered on a media website or a government website. And I think the correct answer is media websites.
I know that we are mandated what we put out there as a legal notice. You made mention that people might not trust that we would be putting out the right things. Wouldn't we be in violation of the law if we omitted something or added to our legal notices? I mean,
The legal notice is not going to be any different from the action that we've taken as a city. They get the information from us. It can't possibly be different.
It's absolutely correct. But from a citizen's perspective, who may not be in favor of who's in charge, who may not be in favor of anyone, it's not going to come across as the best, the most trustworthy, even if nothing's wrong with it. And I don't think there would be a problem with that, but we have to take into consideration what's the best way to reach the citizens, what's the best way for citizens to receive legals. So no, I think it's I don't think there will be any issues, at least from a legal standpoint or a misguiding standpoint from the city. But from the perspective of a citizen who may not be that active in the council, who may have just seen posts on social media about the council, or other aspects that give them an unfavorable view of the city, would you rather them read the legal notices in the Hutch News or on any website that's not affiliated with the city of Hutchinson or the city's own website? In their minds, which one would they trust more? And the answer for that is the third-party websites, in my opinion.
So I'd like to make 2 points. The first being, if this does pass tonight, I think that, so from me to the staff, obviously I trust you guys. The conspiratorial side of me wants to say there's nothing stopping a person, if this passes tonight, from taking a legal notice and putting it on the website, because that's the language that's required, but that doesn't mean that it is put where it needs to be, or that it's put in a place that's easy to find, or that it's put in the correct place. Putting something on the website, if that's essentially all that we're saying it is, and there's no standards adopted for those actions, I think that's a slippery slope, and it's not outlined in this tonight. I think that this is a very vague, adopting the website as the official city newspaper. If I were to ever vote yes for this, I would want to see where it's going. What's the whose job does this? Whose job is this? What's the timeline? What's the frequency? How long do they stay on there? How are they archived? Things like that. Because I think we have probably have some policies in place internally about archiving and that sort of thing. But I would want to know which of those apply to these public notices in particular. And I think I forgot my second point. I should have written it down.
But aren't we doing that anyway?
To some extent, yes. Some of them are on the website, right?
The ordinances?
No, the legal notices.
You were talking about archiving, and we actually are the producers of the legal notice. They are ours to start with. So I don't understand your point, but I'm
because we're not right now. We're not required to put them anywhere. We send them to the newspaper puts them out.
But there are ordinances. They're in a file somewhere.
They're not ordinances.
We created
These are
them.
public notices.
Public notices. We have those. They come from us, correct?
Council, did you look at the agenda packet? It lists all the things that are in the official city newspaper that can be replaced by putting it on our website. It also includes the list of those which cannot.
Well, do we have a motion to approve or not? Or is there any more questions?
I have one additional question.
Okay.
Or not, and it's not of Michael. Sorry, you can sit down. If nobody else has a question for you.
Thank you.
When's the last time that our website has had an ADA compliance audit? Because before we go naming our city website as the official thing, I'd like to know that we're in compliance entirely.
Yeah, so our system is designed for it to meet ADI requirements. I don't know that we've had an audit, but the processes that we have in place require us to comply with ADA. So, for example, our images have captions, or at least a description of what the image is. The software that we buy meets ADA compliance. It's something, so part of 2025's project is having our own certified ADA coordinator who can do that work. So we're going that direction through the Human Relations Office, but the product is ADA compliant. I'm sure due to human error, there could be issues like there could be at the Hutchinson News website currently.
And how does our website translate into other languages?
It the software is designed to translate to other languages as it stands. It would not translate automatically a PDF.
Right.
But the software does translate to other languages through the services already available to most websites.
If I was going to be a jerk about this, and I will be, we have a newspaper that publishes stuff for cities in the wrong state with the same name as our city. How much faith do we have that they're going to publish the right public notice in the right newspaper? I don't have a lot of faith in the local newspaper. I'm publishing the correct news.
Me
You know, I
either,
think
and
if we
this
had a
has
better
nothing to do with
option, it
that.
might be something to look at, but I just don't feel like the option we currently have is a very good option.
I'm thinking that it gives folks even another option. And Garza, you're absolutely right. If you can't get a newspaper and you don't use computers, you're going to have to go to the library and find a computer or something. But I like the idea that I could be notified every time there's a new legal notice, if that's what I want to look at. You know, but that would require me to have an email and all the things.
So here is our, and I don't know if you can see that well, Council, because I certainly can from this standpoint. But there is what the software does to provide accessibility for folks. So all the plugins that are part of the website for accessibility purposes, including a way for you to click if you're wanting to access a PDF reader, which folks with accessibility needs will need to. And so if you click by that, it'll take you to a PDF reader where there are translation services already available. But any questions related to ADA accessibility, it's already present on the website.
All right, thank you, Dave. All right, are we ready to make a motion in a second to either approve or not approve this?
I move to approve a charter ordinance for designation of the City of Hutchinson website as the official city newspaper and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second it.
Richardson,
Yes.
Garza,
Well, I'm not comfortable with this. In my heart, it says it's not the right thing to do, and I say no.
Magers,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Bass.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item number 6B, consider an ordinance adding disturbing peace provisions to the Hutchinson City Code.
Paul Brown, City Attorney, you have before you a proposed ordinance. This is actually comes from Chief Burley. When the noisy conduct provision of the disorderly conduct ordinance was struck by the Kansas Supreme Court, it kind of leaves a void for some situations to be addressed by law enforcement, and it had to do with protections of First Amendment. And this is actually the provision from the city of Lawrence, and it takes all that into account. Right off the bat, you get the statement of intent about it will not be used to abridge the rights of any person to speak, peacefully assemble, and express opinions, which is the protection provided by the First Amendment. Anyway, disturbing the peace will give law enforcement an opportunity to address some very specific situations: loud parties, loud stereos, musical instruments, just things that are causing a problem that they're called out to address. And this helps to fill that gap that was created when the Supreme Court struck that provision of disorderly conduct. And in the past, that's the part of disorderly conduct we used to address those. And so it took it away. This will help restore that. It will help with our law enforcement officers being able to address these situations. And it also provides some exemptions so that obvious things aren't a violation. Emergency vehicles, alarm systems, aircraft or railroads, all of that, which is it's a very sensible approach and will be very useful to our police department. And I thank Chief Burley for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Chief. I was going to put you on the spot, but I don't have to do that.
I'm Bryce Burley, Police Chief. Yeah, this ordinance is something that I recommend for our, so our officers have something lawfully to act upon when we do have individuals that are disturbing the peace. You have all the verbiage in front of you, but just to kind of summarize that, it allows us to enforce if we have, loud parties, excessive noise such as bands in a garage that are playing at all times of the day. It will allow us to take action on those individuals if we can't resolve it through negotiation between the neighbors and then trying to come to a common agreement on what's excessive and what's not.
Can I ask a question? How would this apply if we had a neighbor with a loud dog? Would this be handled through this ordinance or through something else?
That's a separate ordinance. That'd be handled through our animal control officers. We do have like a loud barking dog ordinance for that.
Because I get calls.
What about a race car?
Yeah, it could technically by the words that are listed in there. There's no like exact answer, and that's actually kind of why I like this. It's not 20 pages worth of here's every exact scenario and how this plays out. It gives an officer to use reasonable common sense along with what the calling party, reporting party thinks, along with what the person that's actually using or making the loud noise or conduct thinks. Because we all have our own opinion on what is excessive, or what's disturbing the peace. So it allows the officer the freedom to use common sense when they go to these type of calls. Obviously, our first, where we like to go initially is meet with both of the neighbors and see if we can come to a common understanding of, what we can do, right? Respect your neighbors is something that we hope to gain before we have to take actual law enforcement actions such as an arrest or a ticket. And this disturbing the peace ordinance will give us, the officers, the freedom to be able to still work that without being unable to understand what the ordinance exactly says or being stuck in a corner to where they have to act off of exactly what the ordinance says.
Yeah, I think the key word here is ordinary sensitivity. It
Yes.
seems pretty broad, but I do like it because it's discretionary and common sense.
Yes.
So currently, we really can't do anything.
Correct, and that's why we came up with this ordinance, because it was all stemming from, as Mr. Brown said, from the disorderly conduct. Supreme Court struck down last year the noisy conduct part of it, and once they did that, that was the teeth that we had to be able to stop loud parties, garage bands playing at all times of the night. So this is something that we need if we want to actually be able to help our citizens when the conduct is actually disturbing the peace.
Okay.
I know I've watched in the past officers warn, and then if you go back, then that's when the problem is. I hope that continues and that, like you said, you can get neighbors to cool it, and hopefully that works before you have to do this.
That's always our goal.
Yep.
The only problem I see in thinking about this is that what you're is disturbing the peace. I'm talking about during the day. Evenings after 12, stuff like that's a whole different story. It's the time to sleep and all this stuff. But during the day, a car or they're having music, your neighbor's having a birthday party across the street, and this person doesn't like your radio being up, or my instance don't like my Mexican music playing, and my opinion is saying that it's not that loud. That person says it is loud. So the officer's the only one that's going to be the judge and the jury at that time when he comes up. Is that how I see it, right?
No, not actually. The reason that we're called to these type of events is because we're unbiased parties. So we won't take favor on either side. We'll use what a reasonable officer thinks is excessive noise. And then we also got to remind ourselves at the end of the day, officers aren't judges and juries. We enforce the law, but they still have to go before a judge or a jury to be found guilty of what that is. So even if there is maybe a disagreement on what's reasonable and whether the officers thought of what reasonable is, it still has to go before a judge or a jury to actually reach a verdict on whether it was or not.
But the officer is the one who decides who gets the ticket, if they get a ticket or not get the ticket. Right?
That's correct.
So, and in essence, it is judge and jury. That officer decides, I'm going to give you the ticket, and I think it's too loud, so I'll give you the ticket. Yeah, I'm just thinking. You know,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's always officer discretion. You think of any law that's out there, there's very few laws that require an officer or is required by law to actually take action on something. So there's always discretion involved in these. We have to take the totality of the circumstances and try to decide what's the best course of action moving forward. And it's always difficult with humans, right? Because everybody has a different mindset on what's reasonable, what's not reasonable. And that's why we have officers that are highly trained in negotiations and understanding what's reasonable and not, and they're an unbiased party. So hopefully the correct decision is made at that call. But at the end of it, it still is required by a judge or a jury to find the individual guilty or not.
Don't take me wrong when I'm going to say this, okay, please, Mr. Chief, is that it is kind of a judge and jury because you don't have a tape recorder and taking it to that judge. Do you understand? When it goes to court, the person says, I wasn't that loud. The officer says, they were that loud. And the judge and them would have to have some kind of evidence to say, unless you taped it, then you would say, yeah, I see how loud that. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure. And sometimes that's what we ask of neighbors is to get video recordings, audio recordings. We have to have probable cause at the end of it, a probability that, yes, that it most likely happened.
Okay.
So we still need some type of evidence, not just the individual's word that they're doing X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
We still will still be required to have some type of supporting evidence.
This is the stuff I think about in my head when I'm thinking. I do trust our police department that they'll be fair on this stuff, and I think we need the ordinance. But I do think about this stuff. How can that police officer be the judge and the jury? And they're really not, like you said. But this is what I think about too. I like the ordinance. I think we do need to do something about it. But I just questions that's in my head on this. So, yeah, that's one to talk to you about that. That's all I have to say about it. So. I like the ordinance. And I think we have fair police officers, and we need to go with this.
I think I've been thinking about a noise ordinance since I got on city council, and thank you to Karen, who always made sure this was at the front of my mind. In the back of my mind, I have reservations with enforcement culturally, like you just touched on. What's loud to one person is not loud to another person. We have a pool in our backyard. We blast music when we're in the pool. I don't know if my neighbors hate it. I can't imagine they like our taste in music, but you know, that's one of these things. And if we didn't have a good relationship with them, you can see how this can become weaponized. And when you throw in cultural or racial factors into the mix, I think there are plenty of case law and examples of noise ordinances being weaponized against people's neighbors to settle other things that are not the noise issue. Isn't the actual issue. You understand what I'm saying? And I think we put a lot of faith in our police department when we enact an ordinance like this. I have full faith that you guys will execute this ordinance appropriately. I really, really hope that we don't, in the next year, 2 years or whatnot, have complaints of this turning into something that it wasn't intended to be. That's my only reservation about this, just seeing how it's gone awry in other in other municipalities. And I was watching that same case law, Wichita versus Griffey, since it started, and that one was an interesting case to watch work through the system. I encourage you to look it up.
Mr. Brown, I do have a question. Don't when we have parties on the streets out here, they're open from 11 to whatever, we have to fill out paperwork for that, right?
You mean for special
Yeah.
entertainment districts?
Yeah. So
And special events.
right, and we give them, they have to be closed down by a certain time,
There's
right?
operating hours.
Do you think we're going to have a problem with the neighbors now that we have an ordinance going to say, hey, they're too loud on Main Street at 8 o'clock?
Not when the city's already given them their permission to do so.
Okay.
And there's usually alcohol approved for those events too.
Yeah, it's true. But I'm just asking.
Be neighborly.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would like to go back to Councilwoman Goss's statement. You bring up excellent points. That's why we always try to breed a culture of transparency and accountability. So if there's ever, questions of our actions, we're always happy to hear from our citizens or council members or whoever to make sure that we do address any maybe inappropriate use of any ordinances. But, we are given a great amount of power, and it's something that we must respect. We're given the right to carry a gun, use a gun. Laws of arrest violate, the Fourth Amendment against individuals, and it's something that we do take very serious. This particular ordinance won't change any of that. We'll still use it with great respect and try to use it in a positive manner more than a negative manner.
And I'll say too that I've had plenty of conversations with Chief, not only about this disturbing the peace ordinance, but just in general about our training and et cetera, and the level of scrutiny that they provide to themselves is far more than probably the scrutiny that I could provide. And so a lot of that is a testament to the training that they go through. And so none of us want to end up on the news for any wrongdoing, especially the police department. But they do go through extensive training, again, and they scrutinize themselves more than we do. So I definitely have full faith in Chief and his leadership team in executing this properly.
I think since I got on council, I've had several emails about noise complaints, and we've never really been able to do anything. And I think I've harped on you multiple times about what can we do about it, because that one citizen does have a right to make some noise a little bit, but the other one in the other yard also has the right to have some peace in their backyard. So I think that with this is a good ordinance that it will provide that other citizen or both of them the right to be able to not have noise that they don't want to hear that's excessive, and that'll give the officers the opportunity to make that determination if this is an excessive. And I'm assuming you're going to give it a warning at that point, and probably if you come back, then there's going to be other ramifications. So I think this is a really good ordinance for our city and our citizens.
It's at least a step to try to cure some of the issues that we've been hearing. Maybe 95% of all the cases this ordinance can solve. I think the other 5%, I'm not sure. But it's a really good step in the right direction.
I think to comment on what Ms. Goss said, a few years ago we didn't really have much or anything of the Human Relations Department, which I feel like an ordinance like this puts us more susceptible to having issues. Mm-hmm. But now we have I dare to say somewhat of a balancing act between Human Relations Department and ordinances like this to make sure that things are being followed in such a way, or if anything is overstepping, there's a route to communicate that through the city. So it's a good way of pointing out why having a strong Human Relations Department can help with situations like this.
I think it's more of a progressive law too. Remember, like Mr. Brown was saying earlier, disorderly conduct. All it said was noisy conduct. It didn't really have much besides that. So you talk about freedom of just being able to decide, well, what's noisy conduct? This has better verbiage in it, in my opinion, that actually kind of defines what that is versus just noisy conduct as well.
And this doesn't establish any operating hours, right?
It does not, no.
Ordinary sensibilities.
Right. So is that something that mean, that's something that in all of the Facebook comments and all of the things that the things that I hear, it's either people are being loud and obnoxious during the day, particularly race cars, or there's stuff going on at night, and they want to know, like, is it going to stop at 10 o'clock? Like, when does the noise ordinance kick in? Well, we don't have one. So my question to the council would be, do we want to put in hours? Is that best practices from other cities from what you've found, Chief Burley?
Again, you can find yourself in a web of these questions, because like I said, we could define a lot more in this. But again, then you're taking the reasonable officer out of that equation and then making it a clear-cut rule that this is when it happens. So, because every situation's different. I could take you to 10 different noise complaints, and all 10 of them had something different inside that noise complaint. So where something might be acceptable at 11:15 might not be acceptable at 8 o'clock at night. I just can't define every single scenario that might occur out there. I'll tell you though, from what our custom is, it's 11 o'clock is what we use. It's the same as what we use for fireworks. That's the cutoff time for fireworks. It's the same kind of time frame that officers use to decide on, is this a reasonable time of day to be doing the actions that you're doing.
Thank you.
I do appreciate your comments. That's very thoughtful.
It is.
Comments, and appreciate you, and I'm fully assured that they're not going to run guns blazing tomorrow and ticket everybody that might have their music turned up too loud.
No.
But I think there's times when you're called back 2 and 3 times, and I know that's happening currently.
Yes.
So, anyway, thank you. Any other comments or a motion?
I move to approve an ordinance adding disturbing the peace provisions to the Hutchinson City Code and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Oh. Point of order, we did not open.
We
for
did not
audience
open
comment.
that for audience comment. Please approach the podium, state your name, and
I was trying to look up the ordinance that you guys are going to adopt. Is there specific language already written for it?
yes,
I wasn't able to find it on the website.
it'll be on the agenda
Okay.
packet on the website.
Is it specifically for volume, or is it broad enough that it can encompass content as well? I mean, disorderly, does this include like somebody holding a sign in front of the city council before you guys walk in saying city council sucks? Is that disorderly under this provision? Is it a specific time?
Do you want to read it?
You're actually
Yeah,
talking
thank you,
about First Amendment issues,
Yeah,
and they're
well,
not
you
going
get- well,
to
if
be,
you
they're
guys
not
are-
going to be prosecuted under this statute.
Well, you said it was already struck down on First Amendment grounds in another court. That's
A
super
different
high bar that
ordinance.
we've got
A different ordinance was struck down.
Thank you guys for letting me read this. I'm sorry.
I apologize for not offering up
That's okay.
discussion.
Okay, I'll just give you a few more of my thoughts. Yeah, if it has to do anything with like a First Amendment right, that's a super high bar that you guys are opening yourselves up to, like lawsuits or something like that, civil rights lawsuits. If an officer were to act in a manner that was discriminatory, it's interesting that the only person on the council speaking up was of a minority. That's different than me being a white guy standing out making some loud noises, or being in my home making some loud noises. It gives officers more authority for harassment of citizens. If your neighbor calls and like you're being too loud, it could be just a neighbor fight, and they just want to say, well, I want to, like, this now gives the officer authority to ID everybody in the home, run their names, see if they've got warrants. It's just it's an intrusive thing. If it does come down to it's the guy on the street holding a sign or just making too much noise or with a megaphone or something like that, that gives the officer the authority to do the same thing when he's just expressing himself, you know, in a public square. This can bleed over to a lot of different things. But as of right now, if the officer just walked up to him and said, "Give me your name and ID," you can't ask for an ID and where am I coming from? Leave me alone. Unless he's breaking a law, but he could point to now a specific law. Oh, disturbing the peace. Too loud. You were shouting across the road. I don't know what it's going to entail, but it opens just up a big thing. Also, I didn't see it on there. Is it specific to public property or private property? Can you
Just in general.
Can you be too loud in a park?
Yeah.
Is it?
You could
If
be.
someone complains,
Yeah.
it would be.
I mean, and how loud is too loud? Is there a measurement of it's officer judgment or the complainant's judgment? Are they going to be out there with a decimal meter? I mean, we all have them on our phones. I can tell you how loud I'm talking right now with a decimal meter, but is the officer going to use that as evidence? If there is no video recording, like Mr. Garza said, it's the officer's word versus the other person, and you all know how that goes.
Well, and it's up to discretion because it's so open-ended, because
Yeah.
it needs to be. Just you could be talking calmly and getting in someone's face using profane language to a child, and you would be disturbing the peace.
Right.
Using common applications
to a child, but like there are like so many.
without raising your voice. So it's not necessarily loud; it's disturbing the
Like
peace.
obscene language and stuff like that. There's been like case law on what's appropriate and what's not, and what you can say and what you can't. Normally, it's like overtly like sexual stuff to a child, or something like that.
We can find examples one way or the other all night.
Yeah.
It's how do we create something that is open-ended enough that it can be interpreted on site, but also what do we have for repercussions and balancing that out if it's being overly enforced?
Okay.
And and that's why I was mentioning we used to not have a very robust human relations department. And we've developed more of a human relations department with the city to help offset any situations that are open to interpretation that people feel like they're being treated inappropriately. And they have a means to communicate that through the city to help prevent situations where things are being enforced inappropriately. And then balancing all that out. And that nothing's perfect, right? But we're trying to move forward in a way that is a better fit for our community without isolating certain situations where people are being treated unfairly. And that's a hard thing to do.
I'll mention one other thing. Anytime city policy is for the police department, when they are called somewhere, they have a body cam that is on.
Always, and then never forget to
no, you and I both know it probably misses sometimes, but currently their policy is when they go out for anything, that body camera is to be on, and if it's not on, they will be reprimanded.
The ordinance does specifically outline noise. So in, I guess these are articles. The first article, unusually loud noise. The next one is sound or reproducing of sound. The next one is sufficient volume so as to disturb the peace. So it's clear in this ordinance that this is in regards to volume or reproducing volume, like through speakers, that is not actions being taken. So holding a sign or holding a protest or holding something like that. That is what the Wichita versus Griffey case was about. That that when Mr. Brown was talking about, it was struck down. So she was arrested for, I'm going to butcher this. She was arrested for disorderly conduct, and she said, no, that's my right because I, basically what she was saying was, it's my right to be there. It was freedom of speech, First Amendment. She claimed First Amendment because it was noisy conduct. So the court struck down the noisy conduct section of that disorderly conduct law. He's not saying anything, so I think I'm on the right track. So what that did was it opened it up for municipalities to now adopt a noisy conduct ordinance that specifically addresses noisy conduct, because disorderly conduct is disorderly conduct under disorderly conduct, like fighting the other
Obscene stuff.
yeah, the other obscene scenarios. That's disorderly conduct. We're talking only about noisy conduct, which would be either speaking, playing music, working on vehicles, doing things intentionally that are loud.
I mean, I like quiet too.
I do
But
too.
I
I
also
think
don't like just harassment and yeah. So just thank you for listening to my thoughts.
I want
Um,
I got you, man, because I was on the same track. But we have to do something, and this is the way we're going to start doing this. Now, if it gets to now, our police officers have the cameras on. I don't know, but I think we have to start somewhere. And if we have a problem with abusive, we have a human resource. I think we're starting on the right foot. Let's try something at first, and then if we have problems, we'll deal with the problems.
Okay.
Okay. But I understand where you're coming from. That's why I asked those questions that I asked. But we have to start somewhere.
Okay. If this gets adopted, how am I gonna? Because I'm in the process of reading through all the statutes and ordinances for the city of Hutchinson. There's a lot.
Oh yeah.
How am I gonna know that this is added? Will it be put in the newspaper?
You're gonna know here in a
that
little
was
bit.
that was sort of a joke, but it's also a serious question. If it is adopted, like, just so I could read the exact language and.
It's on the website right now under the city council minutes for tonight.
Okay.
For the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And then just a question about the procedure. When you guys vote on stuff, does it have to be unanimous, or is it's just majority?
Majority.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys.
I just have a quick question. I got confused a minute ago. Are you looking at doing it just between specific times or 24 hours a day?
No, it'll be 24 hours a day.
Okay, I just got confused on that. So
Okay.
I think you know my opinion.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, anybody else?
I just wanted to quickly make the same comment about the timing on this, because so many times it's so late when it happens. And again, like coming home at night from a race in Wichita or something, it's not that night, it's the next morning, you know, when they unload it and park the car. So the timing is, it's my opinion, needs to be 24 hours on, so. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
My stance is that we need to abolish all noise ordinances in the state of Hutchinson. We are a state fair town. We host the most amazing races. We have the Hutchinson Regional Airport. We have the best space museum on the planet Earth. Why block the noise? We need to revive Hutchinson. We have been on a downward population spiral, and the last thing that we need is an open-ended ordinance that gives law enforcement too much power. Yes, I understand that we have put in immense work and human relations to make sure that they have the best interest at heart, but allowing them to have that power still allows for the historical reality of our law enforcement system that is built on racial profiling situations to be inflicted back in the city of Hutchinson, which is something I do not want to see back in the city. We do not need any ordinances that allow open-ended power to our law enforcement system. What we do need is to create spaces and events for people to gather and be loud away from the communities, create spaces the town needs, garages to work on their cars, parks and event centers to throw parties, invest in things like that are specific to the city of Hutchinson rather than just the conventional things that every city has, things that are specific to our city. invest in those things. That way we can get those loud things out of the neighborhoods and into those specific things for the city of Hutchinson.
Thank you, Quincy. All right, anybody else? All right, we'll move forward with the motion in a second again.
Oh. Am I required to remake the motion?
I've got you down. I don't have a second.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Maggard?
Yes.
Dodd?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 6C, consider an ordinance authorizing general obligation bonds to pay the cost of certain improvements to City Hall and City Freeway.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. The IRS requires that we pass an ordinance if we plan on incurring certain costs, such as architectural, engineering, consulting, or construction costs before we bond a project. So I am asking to pass an ordinance to incur City Hall safety improvements. As you see, we have started those. And for the Woody Seat Phase 2. Woody Seat Phase 2 bids have been accepted. Project costs will be around $4 million. We're going to subtract about the $600,000 that we have left in ARPA money, and then ask to bond with bonding costs $3.6 million. For the City Hall and safety renovations, the budgeted amount was $150,000 with contingencies and bonding costs. We're asking to bond $225,000. So the total amount of the resolution is $3,825,000. Dave, is this the time you would like to talk about Woody Seat, or were you going to do that?
I'm not Woody Seat.
Okay. Cecil? Okay.
Good evening, Council. Cecil Weibel, Public Works Director. Just a quick update. Bid letting was last week, the 26th. We had three bidders come through. We are still evaluating those bids. Those will be announced at next council meeting, who we are recommending. But just wanted to kind of give an update on how that process is going. And of the three bids, the engineer estimate was $4.6 million. We had two bids come in very competitively, around 3.6 and 3.9 million, and then we had one other bidder come in considerably higher at 5.7 million. So just kind of an update on where we're at. As it stands now, we are still predicting to have all this stuff in place and ready, and construction to start early 25 and be completed by early to mid 26.
All right, any questions?
It's not going to close down the bridge between South Hutch and Hutchinson, just for the, just want to make sure that's put on the public record.
Anybody, are you finished?
Yes, I am
Okay.
finished.
All right, anybody else have any comments about the bonding of this project in the audience? All right, thank you, Angela. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move to approve an ordinance authorizing general obligation bonds to pay the costs of certain improvements, City Hall and Woody Seat Freeway, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Maggard?
Yes.
Dodd?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
For the minutes, I think the date on that memo is, it says 2025.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not pointing fingers. Hey, no, you're thinking into the future.
All right, next item?
There is no new business, so item 8, under city officials.
All right, Steve?
Well, I do. The gentleman back there, what's your first name? Nick. Nick, I appreciate you coming and speaking up. All right, and we need more people to speak their mind, not in a bad way, but in a good way. If you don't come and talk to us, how do we know what you're thinking of? You know what I mean? You understand? So.
I hope I was appropriate.
No, you did good. You did fine. Other than that, I think we've been doing a lot of stuff here in City Hall. I'd like to know, what are we doing in there? What's the improvement we're doing over there?
Sneeze guard.
A sneeze guard? Okay.
It's just safety facility updates.
Okay.
I'll let Justin kind of
All
go
right.
over it.
Good evening, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. So the updates right here to the east entrance, we're putting in essentially 2 teller windows like what we'd see at a bank.
Get money there?
What's that?
Can I get money there?
Cannot get money there. No.
Deposits.
You can pay bills there.
All right.
So essentially be a teller window or a transaction window.
I see.
There's kind of 2 main purposes. One is just to have that transactions happen there instead of further back in the building. Also to limit access into more secure parts of the building. So really just the way the building is now, anybody can kind of walk through and do whatever they want, and there's not a lot of checkpoints or holding points within the building. So basically that's going to allow those who have real business to do back in City Hall to get back beyond that. Also on the utility billing side, we'll do something very similar. So there'll be 3 transaction windows like we already have. There'll just be a more secure window, and then there'll be a new wall that would prevent people from just roaming throughout the building unless they're escorted by a city employee. So there's a few other minor things, but those are the 2 biggest ones. It's really just to protect our city employees, to limit access to those who don't have business at City Hall. So.
Okay, thank you.
Clear enough?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you. I think that we have good people sitting on the city council. It's not easy being a council member. It's not easy being up here. I know I've been here 5-6 years, and I think I ask some stupid questions sometimes, but they need to be asked. I think they need to be asked. So it's not easy being a council member, especially when we get our butts kicked sometimes for different things. So other than that, sir, that's all I have today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, John.
We have a lot of events going on this week. I think we have the atrium demo on Friday at 2. Is that right? Is that the ceremony? 2:30?
2:30.
Bring your own sledgehammer. There's the YMCA groundbreaking I know you're going to be at, and that is what date?
That's tomorrow at 2.
That one's at 2 o'clock tomorrow, okay.
Yeah.
The Hutch Rec has the gingerbread house decorating at 10 a.m. to 1, I believe, on Saturday. The fire department has Santa Claus that afternoon at North Main Fire Station, and then the parade at 6 p.m. on Saturday. I want to make sure people know if they're going to go to the parade, please be mindful of areas that you can and can't park. That was an issue last year, so I just want to get that out there. And that's all I have right now.
Mayor, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
He made me think of something. Mr. Rico, appreciate you getting after the lights on the buildings. It looks nice. You went after that and got our lights going this year. So I appreciate that. They look nice. I seen them last night. So make sure you know that.
Thank you. And a lot of thanks goes to Public Works and Parks as well.
Yeah, the lights will be on in the buildings this year. So thank you, sir.
You bet. Scott?
John, did you mention the Thanksgiving or the Christmas parade?
I did.
You did. Sorry, I was off in La La Land, I think. So I think everybody's kind of touched on everything I was going to talk about. The only thing I was going to bring up was correct me, Enrico, the traffic count on Panorama has dropped from, what did you say the percentage was?
Almost 54%.
So I think that's a move in the positive direction to drop that traffic. So I think if we could put up a few more stop signs, we might be able to get it to 25%. I don't know if I'll still be here if that happens, but
I think you're out of places to put stop signs.
I've always said every driveway. So.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. So.
All right, Stacy.
I don't have a lot to add. I will also be at the parade judging with Mayor Fast and Dave Sotelo.
I wonder if we can collaborate outside of a public meeting on who we want to win. Can we do that? Is that legal
I think so.
on the parade? I don't want to violate.
I would
any-
take bribes. Like
It's a
if
very
anybody
grinchy look from
orders,
the lawyer.
if anybody brings me a hot chai latte
I'm kind of that same
during
way,
parade setup,
and
you'll definitely win.
You can bet we're going to be collaborating. So
Yeah,
there you go.
it's up for negotiation. So the parade's going to be fun. I believe it will also be live streamed on YouTube in case the weather doesn't cooperate or isn't up to anybody's standards. It'll be fun. It'll be a good weekend. I think we did a lot of good and hard work today. I appreciate the conversations. I would like to point out, and I know Enrico is going to point out the same thing, that the newspaper that does not pass, that requires a 2/3 majority. So that does not pass, right?
Correct.
So we will still be publishing in the Hutch News.
Correct.
Okay. So I think that we're always working towards, as a council, we're always working towards consensus, and I appreciate that about all of us. We're always open to having tough conversations. I did a training with Kansas Leadership Center a week or two ago, and it was really good. I encourage everybody up here or anywhere in Hutch to check out their programs and participate if you're able. I think the asking tough questions training that we did, it was for elected officials, was really valuable to phrase questions in a way that you don't present them as suggestions or as an assumption. I know that that's challenging up here when we're trying to think on the fly and we're trying to dig for specific answers, and to think more holistically about the issues is really hard. I think I don't love the noise ordinance, if I'm honest with the people who objected to it. I don't love the noise ordinance. I think it's a tool that is up for a lot of interpretation. However, it's something that I think we need to try. I trust our police officers. I also trust our human relations officers or officer to investigate and report back if there are any issues with it. But I think it can be tweaked at any point in time as well. So if, in a couple of months from now, we have feedback that something doesn't work, or we do need to set specific hours, or we do need to set specific parameters, or outline more exemptions, all of that is on the table. It's only permanent until we change it. So I think everybody just needs to keep an open ear as this starts to become enforced. I'm curious to hear feedback from your neighborhood as well, if it helps solve the issue or what. I know this feels like it should always be a last resort for people. You try everything before calling the police, and sometimes calling the police is absolutely unavoidable, and calling them repeatedly is unavoidable. So I just hope that this is the solution that we thought it was. And that's the end of my remarks.
All right. Again, I could just repeat some of the things that were mentioned. The parade and the downtown specifically, if you haven't had a chance to go through downtown on your way home, start at Avenue B and go north. It's beautiful down there. Steve, I appreciate your words. It is hard sometimes. This week has been particularly difficult for myself on a number of levels. But, it's good that we're criticized and we try to make those changes, as you were talking about your leadership. And I think that, some of the other difficulties is, we're just trying to make our city better. And so, and those are hard conversations at times.
Oh, yeah.
So that's all I have. Enrico?
I'd say one thing to add for the list of activities for the week. There is also a civil defense exhibit, ribbon cutting at Stratica. That's Wednesday, I think, 4 o'clock.
4. Yes, I'm sorry, I meant to mention that because you left that out, John.
So that would be a good one.
Yeah.
To attend. And I would say too that I would like to add that what adds to transparency and accountability is just the discourse that you have just in any of these agenda items. That understanding how the decision was arrived at is just as important as mentioning the agenda item itself. So there is a lot to, even hopefully for anyone in the public, that they do appreciate that you are thinking on the fly. In these decisions, some of them are fairly straightforward, but a lot of them aren't. So I do think that, and I hope that the public does recognize that. That does add a lot to transparency with the work that you guys do, and that we all try to strive to do. And with that, there are a lot of exciting updates from staff, so I'll kind of tee it off. I'll start with David first. We'll do David, Justin, David Gwynn, and then Cecil.
Hi, Council Dave Sotelo, Director of Strategic Growth. So the city manager wanted me to give you an update on a few things. But before that, I just wanted to point out there was a lot of reference to the Human Relations Commission and the Human Relations Office during the conversations today. And that can be easily found on the website, the Human Relations Department. So former Human Relations Officer, still part of my department. But if there are any issues with discrimination, race-related, identity-related issues, you can always come to the Human Relations Officer who can provide assistance with that related to police, employment, housing, or public accommodation. And we have a really good relationship with different groups that can help be a mediator, an investigator, and that and work with federal agencies when needed. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so the first thing, and I'm going to try to be super quick, the first thing is a strategic planning update. So we just wanted to let you know where we are with the strategic plan. Where we've been, we've had a steering committee discussions with the city manager, planning director, finance director, human resources director, communications officer, myself, and the mayor is part of that steering committee. So the initial part of this is just general understanding of where we want this strategic plan to lead us, what we're really looking for. So we have just conducted focus groups with individual departments and their leadership teams. Some of them are combined. So those focus groups are happening this Friday, and some of them happen on Monday as well. Second part of that process is a survey that's going out to all staff. And the purpose of that survey is to just figure out how we're doing, what are some needs, what are some successes around our organization. And one of the cool things around that is the direction we got from the city manager of comparing that data year over year. So how connected does the staff feel to our mission, vision, values, purpose, identity? What support do they feel they have currently to be able to perform their jobs? All sorts of different questions that it's essentially an organizational assessment from the perspective of our employees, and we're going to be able to track that year over year to see the progress we're making. So really excited about that. After this organizational assessment is complete, we'll get a influencing factors report, 10-page report of what's influencing the organization, what the current trends are, what future things we need to look at. It also will give us a strengths and weaknesses opportunities report that will be helpful for management, but also for council to know the health of the organization. After that, we'll start a second phase in the spring, where we will have discussions and preparation to figure out what might be some of the goals and opportunities that the council wants to direct for the city manager and staff. So really excited about that process as well. A component of this is also a retreat for council and the city manager with Kathy Saxon, where we'll get to work to some of the initial process. So really excited about that process. Second item, a different study that we're working on is our communications strategic plan. So as you know, we haven't had a communications department in the past 2 years or so. And with the work of Jessica, she's leading an effort to identify a solid plan for communications over the next few years in partnership with Bowercom. We've got a grant from the Hutchinson Community Foundation to begin this work, which most of that part will be funded by my department next year. But that communications plan is really exciting. We've had a retreat with staff just about 2 weeks ago where we worked on some of our needs and for each department around communication. And I think what was really exciting walking away from that retreat is just how energized the staff was around better communication tools for our community. And so we'll inform what we do on social media, but just different ways to communicate with the public and put our communications out there, increase transparency. So you'll see some of that. You'll be able to provide some input. It might come with some brand updates. So think about our logos, our colors, the look of our organization, our identity, who we are to the public, the way we talk about ourselves. We'll come out with that. And it's very high level, but I think it's exciting enough that the Public Works Streets Department is thinking, how does that fit into our messaging? And they're thinking, what can we do to jump in there and find an identity for ourselves? So it's really trickling down to the way we're out there in the streets, our trucks, the mail people get every day, every month from our water bill department to social media and all the usual methods that we communicate. The last thing is our housing assessment is ending just about right now, and you'll hear an update on recommendations from the housing department on that at the beginning of the year for yourself, and then we'll have that presentation to the county as well. Said a lot. Any questions for me?
Can you say that again?
We'll talk later. All right.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good evening, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. Just want to give everyone an update on the zoo master plan. So we've asked our consultant, Tesserae, to make a couple revisions to the recently passed master plan. We think we missed a couple opportunities when we went through this plan, so I want to go over kind of what those are, and then there'll be time for questions at the end. So the first opportunity that I think we missed was the train loop. So we didn't really do a great job of activating the train loop in the master plan. And so we've asked them to reevaluate that. Our idea right now is to add one predator species or potentially two predator species along the train loop, and then potentially something at the very end of the train loop. So really something to drive people to the train, to get people excited about using the train again, and really just to activate that space. The other missed opportunity was the pond itself. And so in the master plan, we kind of built around the pond, and we never really utilize it as an asset within the facility. During the community meeting that we had at Memorial Hall, I had a display board that had the master plan, and the first comment by every single person that stopped to talk to me was about the pedal boats, or pedal or paddle, I don't know which one they are, pedal boats on the pond. So that got me talking to all the residents that were there about how cool it would be to activate the pond space and use the pond more as an interactive feature as opposed to just something that's pretty to look at in the background of enclosures. So we've also asked Tesserae to reevaluate how we're going to use the pond in the future of the zoo. And the last thing is, because of those changes, then we're also going to ask them to reevaluate the phasing of which piece comes first and second, those sorts of things. So, and a lot of this goes back actually to a comment that Councilmember Richardson made. Hopefully you remember making it. You have a look on your face like you don't.
I don't know if you're setting me
up. No, it's something really good. So when we talked about the master plan originally, you made a comment about seeking revenue sources that don't include an entry fee. Both of these things would do that. So driving people to use the train more often, and driving people to use something on the pond, whether that's a pedal boat, a canoe, whether it's a program space that we have programs that you pay extra for. So really reaching that goal of trying to be aware that having a free zoo is important to a large portion of our community, and so, but also being aware that every year costs go up, and so how do we look for those ways to generate more revenue but still operating free for the public. So when all these changes are done, we will bring that whole plan back for approval, but just wanted to give you a heads up so you weren't caught off guard when we brought those changes. So I am here for any other questions.
And then to kick this off, or to energize the master plan, one way that we're doing that, so in 2025 in the CIP was budgeted for about $250,000 for the Memorial Hall roof. Well, we can utilize STAR bond money for the rooftop, and use that $250,000 for the zoo master plan. That way we can really kick this off, because it is a really unique asset to our community. So anything that we can do to really get these plans off the ground so they don't just collect dust is going to be really important for us.
Very good. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
David Gwynn, Director of Utilities. Got Evan Patterson with me here just in case there's a lot of questions that he may need to answer. My update this evening is more of what we're doing for 2025. We're looking at our whole facility and our distribution system. We're going to do a comprehensive study of what's going on. We know that there's some improvements that we need to make at the wastewater treatment plant. And with things like Evergy coming into town, we don't want to make huge improvements and just waste that money. So we are going to look at this as a whole, look at the distribution system, the RO plant. We're going to look at the wastewater, make sure that we're making the right decisions with what could come in after Evergy, and make sure everything's covered in that way on both plants there. But we're also looking to do a rate study with this as well. So that's pretty much all I have. But if you have specific questions about that, this is kind of Evan's baby, and this is why he's here. So if we need to field any questions, he can.
I would include with that. We also are going to evaluate things like the health of our aquifer, so we don't end up in situations like other communities where they need water. So we're going to evaluate what the health is of that system, just as well as a comprehensive look at everything else, like what Dave said.
Well, I think you're going to get more and more people outside the city limits calling and asking to hook up to city water over the next few years too.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we're thinking, and why we're looking at this holistically and going, hey, we don't want to dump a ton of money into stuff, right now. If something else may come out of this that we should have gone a different route. So we want to be prepared for it.
So on the water conservation plan that is due in April that we just approved not too long ago, if you're going to be analyzing the aquifer, will the water conservation plan tie into specific levels of the aquifer? Because it doesn't currently, but other municipalities do that, like with Cheney and Wichita.
I think, excuse me, I think that's a valid concern, and that's certainly something that we could incorporate this April, because you're right, that's our source of water. We should be identifying. We sample the level of the aquifer fairly regularly, and we could use that as one of the indexes for our water conservation plan.
Okay. And how often do you sample the aquifer level?
I think it's monthly.
We check our wells. Okay. We do drawdowns monthly on our wells.
And does that sample give you an idea of, like, is that any different than is there any, like, deeper study, no pun intended, that you need to do?
The deeper study of the aquifer will take about a year to actually.
Okay.
When you're doing it holistically. When we check the wells, we're really just checking to make sure that well health is where we need it to be for what we're currently under. So that we know it's going to continue to produce, but we can also track that. So if it starts falling off, we can go, hey, wait a minute, we need to really look at something different here.
Okay.
And the other thing we plan on looking at as well, trying to get a handle on all of our water main breaks. So the fact that we average 80 to 90 annually, we do want to see what we can do to curb that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a new natural gas generation plant to be built in the South Hutchinson area. I just wanted to know, like, how that may affect our water generation in Hutchinson, and how we're going to counteract those effects on our water terminals, like what we're going to do to counteract those effects, since that plant is going to be right next to our town.
So this is part of what that study is going to tell us. So that's what this is going to tell us. Okay.
Evening again, Council. Cecil Weibel, Public Works Director. Just wanted to update you on a couple other projects we got going on. So Scott, you'll like these. So a little bit more data came in from the Panorama area. So the traffic studies did show that we did have a drop of about 50% of the amount of traffic in that neighborhood overall. The other study on that we kind of came up with was some of the speeds as well. So overall, on Panorama itself, it was about a 10 mile per hour drop in the max speed. You know, we still have people speeding in the neighborhood, but that max speed at one point was 54 miles per hour was the average max. Now it's down into the low 40s. So still some speeding going on, but the numbers are dropping.
So you're saying we need more stop signs?
No, I don't know that we can get more stop
Well,
signs.
and there were people clocked at 70+ mile an hour.
Yes. Yeah.
Prior to the circles.
Yeah, and that was just the average. So yeah, before this all went in, it was 75 was the max speed that we clocked. Now we're down to the max speed we actually clocked was 52, but the average is down to 43 on the max end. So they are working. They are a nuisance, which I believe is why they're working. So just wanted to update that we do have some numbers on that. We are planning on letting them be as is for a while and then probably redoing another study probably in another few months to see if that normal stays. So any questions on the Panorama area?
What would be the purpose of a second or an additional study if once the stop signs are in, are we not going to just leave them there?
It's just to track and see if they continue to work, then I think the object would be to leave those in place. If it's just a fluke and they're not actually working, then we may need to step back and look and see, is there something else? We don't want to just drop this and say, hey, we've done all we can now. We want to make sure we continue to monitor the area.
I appreciate that. I think that this didn't play out the way that I anticipated it would. Like, the public asked for a thing, and we gave them the thing, and people were mad about it. But what's funny is the people who were mad about stop signs being on that road are the people who live there were trying to get to not drive on that road in the first place. So I feel bad that I know your staff, if they read any of the Facebook comments, people think that a certain way about all of the city council and the city officials and the workers and everything, but I think this is actually an example of the opposite. It's an example of we did the right thing, we listened to what the residents were asking, we tried something, it didn't work, so we tried another thing, and it worked, but then like you said, we're going to go back again and we're going to make sure that it's still working. So I appreciate that, and I think that I just appreciate the risk that everybody took on all of this.
Just so you know, I have two people that work in my office and maintenance that live on that street, and they said I'd be here on time, but it has so many stop signs to go through. But there are people that mention to me all the time about that. But if it's working, it's working.
Yep.
I don't have anything. I don't have any questions.
The other topic just wanted to fill you, kind of update on is the school zone signs, the flashing school zone signs. So we are, the initial numbers we kind of came up with was just kind of going to one vendor. Now that we've kind of got the approval and we're going to make sure we're doing that, we're currently going out for bids to get those in. Due to budget restraints, we're going to actually order those in 25. So we'll have that all ready to go before January, and then we'll actually place the order. Depending on turnaround time for how long it takes to make the signs, we will get those signs installed as soon as we get them in place. So we're going to start, like I said, with those first initial 3 schools we talked about, and then address other areas as we decide they're needed, and work with the school board if there's anything we need to update on those school zones as well.
All right. Thank you, Cecil.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Okay.
Hey, Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Enrico asked that I update you on my projections for the ending general fund balance. So when we approved the 2025 budget at the end of 2024, we had projected to have a general fund balance of 5.5 million. I am projecting to have a general fund balance of 7.5 to 8 million, pending something doesn't come up that I haven't forecasted. So if these trends project into 2025 and our spending aligns and our revenue stays about the same, we'll end 2025 with between 4.5 and 5 million. So the GFOA recommendations and the general fund balance that we had approved, we should probably be between 7 and 7.5 million. So we'll end 24 with about where we should be, but then at the end of 25, we'll start having to look at what we should do to restore that general fund balance. But it is a lot better than the 913,000 we had projected at the end of 25 in our budget.
Good work.
Yep.
Yes, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Angela. All right, anything else, Enrico?
No, I think that's all the highlights.
All right, we need to have 2 executive sessions. First one, can I get a motion? We're going to need maybe 30 minutes.
Is that a question or are you stating
So what
that?
time would we come back?
We would come back at, let's just say 8:15.
I move to recess into executive session pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception, KSA 75-4319B1, in order to discuss city manager matters. The open meeting to resume in the city council chambers at 8:15.
Second.
Yes.
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 Do we get overtime for this?
Time and a half.
Hey, you get 1 more 0.
Yeah, 1 more 0.
do you think this one will take?
Couple, 10 minutes maybe.
10 minutes?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't get everyone in the bathroom back.
11 minutes.
You're being broadcast, by the way.
That's how that works.
Okay. I'll read the motion to you, and then you can give me a motion in a second. Motion to recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 754319B6 for the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property. The open meeting to resume in the city council chambers at 8:26. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Come on. Richardson?
Yes, sir.
Garza?
Yes.
Meggers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Fast?
Yes.
Back into the room. Meggers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yes.
Steve, we're just
We are
responding to
adjourned.
him, like, yeah?